Hello and welcome to the Method Matters show. I'm your podcast host, Greg Kouwiloyan, both co-founder and director of the Method Recruitment Group. Now, if you're new to the show, let me briefly explain. This show is purely centered around interviewing true thought leaders who are doing things a little bit differently to most and learning more about their journeys, both past, present, and future. And today, I am honoured not to only have a good friend on the show, but someone who is shaking up the industry standard when it comes to people and support. Welcome, Larissa Cain.
Thank you.
How are you, Larissa? You good?
Good. Thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I am super mega thankful for you taking the time. I know it's a bit of a crazy time, especially around this time of year. So thanks for joining us on the show.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good, thanks, perfect. Now, for those of you who don't know who Larissa is the head of people for Cars24, a growing global group who are revolutionising the way that you go about purchasing a vehicle online with offering a peace of mind. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Perfect. I've been rehearsing that bit properly. Now, Larissa, it truly is a people-focused professional who started her career in recruitment many moons ago, similar to me. In fact, we did work at the same organisation for a wee while, hence how we both cut our teeth when I came to Australia in 2010. With 11 years industry experience both across the UK and Australia, across a multitude of industries, including entertainment, finance, health, defense, and now tech startups. Larissa has purely and solely learned a lot about people, what to do and what not to do when it comes to people, support and leadership. And we're going to delve into a bit of that right now. But before we get skin deep, Larissa, tell us more about, I suppose, people that have kind of shaped you and maybe some of your sort of biggest influences to date.
Yeah, I think when it comes to my career and overall pathway, I hadn't actually ever envisaged going straight into HR. I left high school and wanted to travel the world and actually go around the world dancing. My father had better ideas and thought that wasn't the most sensible thing to do.
Yeah.
So I suggested I do something to do with business. So I signed up a bit naively to business at university and did all my initial papers. And out of all the papers I did, the only one I enjoyed was the people and communication one.
Yeah.
So not much of a maths whiz or on the accounting side of things. So that's where it all started, which it was more forced, I suppose, as a more sensible career path than dancing around the world. But then from there, I think in terms of what's been my biggest influence career-wise, adding on to that is my father, just as far as being able to, it's always taught me, like growing up in an environment where I can achieve whatever I can imagine types thing, as lovely as that sounds. But yeah, always taught me to push boundaries and learn more. And I'm always been super curious. So the people space in terms of how people work and what makes them tick and, you know, what really works for people, I've found super interesting. But yeah, I've always been influenced in a way to go as far as I want, really. As far as quick as, you know, broad or however. So that's been my biggest, career-wise, biggest influence, I think.
Brilliant. I think that curiosity piece is huge, isn't it? I mean, being able to challenge the status quo, have the ability to sometimes go against the grain when it's probably told it's probably not a good idea, but you're never going to grow and evolve unless you can bring some new ideas to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having that curious mindset, is it helped with, I suppose, the growth for Cars24?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do challenge quite a lot of status quo things. I think that helps from having experience across all different industries, I suppose, and globally as well. But yeah, just because something's done a certain way for X amount of years doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way. Or not right or wrong way, but just best way in terms of getting the best outcome, what you need for the business and for the people.
Love that. No, that's so true. If we were to talk about leadership, and obviously people look at leadership in so many different ways, it can be looked at through so many different lenses. And obviously we're here to provide as much insight as possible. And your journey today is a pathway that I'm sure most would absolutely love to be on. But if you were to give someone advice as to how to break into that senior leadership space. If that is an avenue for them, are there any words of wisdom that you want to provide?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things. The first one, I know it's quite generic, but I would say you're only limited by what you think you can achieve. And I know on paper that doesn't always work out. I know especially, I don't know the exact statistics, but a lot of females look at job descriptions, and if they can't do 95% of the role or haven't done it, they think, I won't apply. So I'd say the belief part in signing up to a role where you haven't done all of it. There's no harm in signing up to a role where it doesn't matter if that's 20, 30, 40%. As long as there's a few things, not just obviously believing you can do it, but being open to feedback and being aware of your strengths as well. So whenever I've stepped into a new role or a role at a higher leadership level, I've been very reflective on my strengths, so the areas I can play well in, and then more so my development areas. So I don't call them weaknesses anymore, but development areas. If you're not aware of those in a real deep level, and then surround yourself by peers or influences that can help you in that space, then you'll fall down in those spaces, and that's the part of the role you either haven't done or haven't had the experience or opportunity to do. 5 other people in the same leadership team as me, and the amount I can leverage from them and learn and give and take, vice versa, is huge. But I think it's just having that awareness and then really honing in daily on your development areas and really gunning for it.
You make a great point. I think that self-awareness is key, isn't it? And I think you make another good point around strengths and harnessing the strengths rather than looking at individual weaknesses and then focusing on trying to bring those up to speed. I think a lot of successful leaders kind of focus on what they do and what they do very well, and then eventually look, okay, great, so how can I upskill? How can I improve?
So everyone wants to focus on what they're good at.
Yeah, it's true.
Play in that space because it's more comfortable and obviously makes you look better as a leader and as a professional. Yeah.
No, I love that. That is absolutely true. Brilliant. Thank you. Some good insights there. Over the past few years, obviously, it's been a very strange Australian economy. Obviously, what's been happening pre-COVID, post-COVID, we look at the acceleration of technology by the means of such as the use of Zoom and other sort of online platforms. And I relate it back to the Cast 24 growth journey, vision and mission. I'll say, how has technology shaped your organization over the past maybe 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So technology doesn't exist to this extreme, I suppose, in automotive before, because it hasn't really needed to. Although, interestingly enough, during COVID, most things have verted to online. So most things have transferred across. Basically, just meaning that you can buy as it stands, anything online whenever and as quick as you want, get it delivered. But that never existed in Australia for cars. It does exist before us in the UK and America. And really, really popular. So similar to, ordering online, Uber Eats or Deliveroo, similar to that. It's just never really existed. So we've used technology as an app-based tool, similar to, like I said, like Uber, that sort of tech, and then driven it that way. But the same, that's basically our main changer, because we're still selling used cars, but using that technology and being able to do it all online, get, finance approval within 2 minutes and not have to log on your computer, just do it on your phone. So it just makes it super easy for the customer. And then customers are happy when things are easy.
Absolutely. I mean, the element of convenience, right? I mean, basically, that's what everybody wants. People want that to be able to log onto their phone and pretty much work through what's the best means of purchasing this, or it makes a bold difference.
Yeah, and I don't think people have done it for a big priced item. I think it's easier to do for a pizza, right? But it's the same. It's in essence the same thing. If you're not happy, you get refund on your pizza, or you get a new one. So it's just exactly the same thing applied, but just in a different space. Yeah,
I love that. That's so true. Brilliant. And it seems like it's been quite an exciting place to be over the past couple of years, which is wonderful.
Absolutely.
You seem to be enjoying it, which is great.
And COVID's actually, there's a lot of negatives that come out of COVID, but it's actually been kind of handy for us in terms of, everything being closed. People can't go out.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, good to hear, mate. Good to hear. Mental health over the past, obviously it's been a bit of a hot topic and a bit of a buzzword. but also as well perfectly apt in terms of what's been happening over the past few years, especially with obviously the acceleration of technology and use of technology and working from home, and obviously COVID. It's been obviously something that a lot of organisations are trying to support, and also trying to roll out, so they don't have any plans to support their teams. A lot of organisations are putting things in place. And one thing I'd love to understand, especially with the growth journey that cars are on, is I suppose how the organisation is combating, supporting mental health in the workplace, or whether potentially there are any other benefits that you're introducing to help further build retention as such.
Yeah, it's been a lot in this space in terms of looking at what all different companies are doing, and what we're trying to do is, instead of doing what's commonly called work-life balance, which most people look at, working 9 to 5, log off, disconnecting and getting that balance, we're sort of looking at a new terminology which has come about called work-life blend. No, I did not make it up. Take no credit for that. But work-life blend, for us, the way we're implementing and trying to do is that 9 to 5 working straight and then play doesn't actually really work that well for everyone, and it doesn't work for a few reasons. We're working from home, people have got pets, some people like to do yoga at lunchtime, tai chi, whatever it is, but everyone's got their own sort of journey to being their best self, and being stuck in an office 9 to 5 doesn't necessarily work. So what approach we've been taking is a very much you do you analogy, which sounds nice and simple, but basically that means people can work wherever, whenever and however they want. And a lot of companies that do that are very input focused. So one of our core values being ownership and trust is we let people get on with it and create it how they want, rather than be dictated that by the manager or what the rest of the team are doing. So that, I think that really works for people. Pre-COVID, a lot of companies did flexibility, but flexibility for picking up children from school, or very, very basic things. Whereas, not everyone has kids, but people do have other needs that they need flexibility for that have never really been factored in on this level. So we try and take a really holistic approach and philosophy. And I think that's really key with creating the future of working, like that it comes from a philosophy. So our main philosophy is, giving the ownership back. You do you, and whatever works for you so you can be your best self. And on top of that, there are a few benefits we offer, which are a bit outside of the box, I suppose you would say. One of them being unlimited paid annual leave. Not many companies in Australia are doing that yet. It is popular overseas, especially in Silicon Valley and some of the tech startups over there. But basically, everyone's been in a position where you start a new job and you want to go to your cousin's wedding or your child's school play, or you just want to have the afternoon off to get a massage, whatever it is, but you haven't been able to because you don't have the leave. So we don't want people's lives to stop or work to get in the way, but we want them to blend and be complementary so that people are actually enjoying. You spend so much of your life at work, but people should be adding to someone's life, not taking away from. That's sort of how I balance it out.
That is very unique. I mean, you're looking at individual lifestyles as opposed to balancing the life around the work, which I think is a very unique approach. How was it received when it got rolled out? Were people welcome it with open arms?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the overall people were surprised at first, but then when you explain the philosophy and the why, one of our other company values is investing in people. So actually, it's really good to be working in a space in a company that is actually putting people first. I mean, I know it's one thing to talk the talk, but walking the walk is the next thing. So if employees can actually see that you're doing what you can to put their needs first, then that just ends up win-win for everybody. Because if people are happy, obviously everyone knows if people are happy, they're going to enjoy their work more. And
I think absolutely. I think it's a wonderful incentive to have. But also at the same time, you are right. If you afford people the luxury to have leave at their beck and call, hopefully it won't be abused. But you're right. If the outcomes aren't being achieved, then it can be questioned. But as long as productivity is high, hopefully fulfillment and happiness will be high as well. So like you said, it's a win-win.
Side that we're doing is a wellness allowance. So a lot of companies do like 10% off at a gym, or a free glasses checkup for the year, or a free fruit bowl. But the thing is, not everyone goes to the gym, not everyone eats glasses, and not everyone eats fruit, right? So I did a bit of a study around to the wider community and reached out to see what the sense was for wellness. I looked at all these cool apps where you could sign up and get discounts here and Pilates or coffee points and all this stuff. And then it boiled down to, why don't we just give people a wellness cash allowance? That's a yearly thing that they can spend on their own wellness journey, not on what we tell people is wellness for them. So we do that for every employee. So that's an annual, comes out actually in July coming up, but an annual incentive. So that covers all those areas.
Excellent. And again, I think it makes
it's important to have benefits. Yeah, sorry, that are tangible and easy to use. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point. Everyone's journey is very different when it comes to wellness. Yeah, it means different things to different people. The generalized approach of here's a fruit bowl, or potentially, we're going to go on this wellness retreat, or we're going to go basically do a hike in the Dandenong Ranges. You've got to come. It's wellness related. Doesn't really suit everybody's needs or individual plans for what wellness can be for them. No, that's really interesting and very unique in the sense. Thanks for sharing that. I do appreciate that. I suppose less about the organisation. Let's get really selfish and talk more about you. And again, I'm a big fan of what you've achieved in a very, very short space of time, and the exposure that you have gained. And then I suppose the diversity of what you've achieved as well across industry is very unique in this sense. But are there any individual milestones that you're super proud of?
Yep. I'm just going to start at the beginning. I'll start with the biggest one. I think the biggest one for me was moving to London and the exposure. I'm from a very small community, or not really even a community, a small farm in New Zealand, and it didn't have that sort of wide, diverse exposure. Growing up and moved to Australia to go from Melbourne to the UK and London. Completely different, eye-opening experience on the professional front, obviously, and personal front. But I think that really sort of threw a huge net from what I learned over there, and just the pool and diversity of people and the different ways people operate at that sort of global level. I just found super eye-opening, and just so many new ideas and different ways of doing things. I think that was a huge hurdle forward in my career. The other one would actually probably be my first, which you mentioned earlier, we worked together, but my first role was with Greg in recruitment. And I went into a graduate program and I knew nothing. I knew what recruitment was, but I really had no clue. I was only 23, just turned 23, so fairly young and just straight out of university. But what I learned from that and the foundations from really, really good but small team was really, really good, and set me up with some solid training and ideas to go and try new things. And the other one I'd probably say, not more of one milestone, but like little different milestones, I think, is jumping industry. I've just found that really eye-opening. I sort of, the last 5 years I've done it on purpose. Before that, it wasn't on purpose. It just happened to happen. But changing industries has been very eye-opening and challenges more thoughts. Obviously, you can take principles and philosophies with you across industries, but that's been really, really, really good, game-changing.
Yeah, that's great. And a lot of individuals, when they're on that sort of that job seeker journey, do have troubles changing industries. There's a lot of, especially in the finance space, in terms of the practice that I've been working in for the past 15 years, change issue can be a bit of a pickle for a lot of candidates. Have there been industries that you've genuinely enjoyed? Obviously, technology being one, but is there any ones that you thought, wow, like it was a real game changer for you in terms of that learning curve?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got two. One from a more personal perspective and one from a business perspective. But when I was in London, I got the opportunity to work for an entertainment company. And that sort of teed together my professional HR space life and personal life, insofar as I'm a dance teacher outside of HR. So, I got to actually do all the HR side for a company that was doing all the lighting, sound for the theatre in the UK, not just theatre, but like all the sports stadiums, all the heritage, all the palaces and tourist sites. So that was really cool, because that was like both of them blended together, which was super fun. But I think from a learning curve, healthcare It was a pretty big learning curve. But yeah, so that was interesting. And I have actually come back a few times into finance. So I started obviously in the finance realm. I've got a sweet spot for it. So I have come back into insurance and finance a few times. But yeah, no, really, really interesting.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Brilliant. Well, listen, Larissa, I can't thank you enough for sharing your insights and journey. There was a whole heap that I'm sure that we could all learn from there. And listen, more on the softer side and just kind of rounding things up. Obviously, you mentioned you're a keen dancer and you still teach. I mean, do you still continue to teach in your spare time as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I'm down to 2 days a week. That's what I managed to fit in one night during the week, and then Saturdays are dancing days. That's more of my sort of unwind, disconnect, have a bit of fun, running around with the children. It's obviously quite different to what I do during the day. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. That's awesome. Now, listen, I can't thank you enough for joining us on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure walking through this with you. And listen, I just want to say thank you very much for your time and for your efforts. And looking forward to catching up in due course.
We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we operate today, the peoples of the Kouwiloyan Nation. We also pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.